Well, here you are. Here we are. It is now the end. We've just spent 2.5 days together for this 20th edition of X Conference that took place at Radio France. It was quite emotional, actually, and really fascinating. All the quality and the intelligence of what has been said by all the panelists. Well, so together with Philippe Aguillon and Patrick Artus, my two colleagues from the Cercle des Économistes, we will share with you a few takeaways from these 2.5 days. A few preliminary remarks. This statement, contrary to what has been the tradition for the previous 19 years, is not that of the Cercle des Économistes. It is partly that, but it is a statement that derives from everything that's been said. So it is that derives from everything that's been said by many people who've come, and there's a number of European figures that have come: Ursula von der Leyen, Charles Michel, Christine Lagarde. We've had major European figures. We've had heads of French trade unions. We've had a variety of politicians. We've had economists, Olivier Blanchard and many others. And that sheer diversity of opinions makes it possible for us now to assert that this is not going to be the truth, but what's been said over the last 2.5 days is representative of what prevails in our country, and it is an important contribution. Second comment. What's been revealed over the last 2.5 days is that thirst for debate, for discussion. Following the crisis, it was maybe the first major debate post-crisis. We want, of course, this debate to then be one contribution to what the government is going to decide. But clearly, French people want to make contributions. They have a lot to say. And they have made that very clear, and the decision makers should be aware of that. And before we get to the heart of the matter, the topic and contributions have to be clear. And there has been 3 phases. First phase was protection. Protection of capital, protection more broadly. A second phase, we have to face the emergency, and that is not over. Emergency and pressing matters when it comes to young people, when it comes to aerospace, and of course, I know we can't tackle all problems in one go. And then the third phase will be about outlining what growth will be like in our country. It is very difficult. It is very delicate. It amounts to tackling a lot of different issues: climate, control over technology, Europe. But there will be measures that will be common to both. But let's be clear. Let's not mix things up. So we are going to present you with the 16 proposals that are the outcome of 80 proposals that we have debated. So it is not a roadmap for the government. I mean, we're not that ambitious or arrogant, but they actually relate to 8 different domains. I'll start with the first domain, which seems the most urgent to us. We have to be really clear-sighted, and we are all very clear-sighted on the fact and aware of the fact that 2 months from now, 600,000 to 700,000 young people will come onto the job market. 2/3 have qualifications. 1/3 do not have those basic qualifications, as I would call them, and we need to tackle that problem urgently and radically. Why? Because everybody knows, and economists certainly know, that if someone enters a difficult phase and they're not integrated onto the job market, it will actually follow them for a long time. So for those 600 or 700,000 young people, we need to commit. And I think we shall commit, and we shall get the commitment of employer representatives, the MEDEF, the CFE, CGC, and other trade unions. So if a young person is recruited in the shape of an employment contract, of a work-study program, so that they can be integrated into the job market, we suggest that beyond what the government has proposed, which covers a 3-year period, we propose that there'd be support for these young people. Let's not forget that there has been support for other groups within the French population, the elderly, and other groups. We suggest that they get a year more in training, so that the ones who haven't got skills get a second chance. Those who study get an extra year so that they can enhance their skills. And we propose that they be compensated at the level of the RSA, which is a supplementary income support. For young people of working age, we are all flabbergasted when we see that because of the rise in housing prices, it is very difficult for these young professionals to find a place to live. So we suggest that there be a whole raft of measures to make it easier for these young professionals to find housing. We're thinking of control over housing prices, of lowering VAT. We're also thinking of the dismantling of the Purchasing Act. Between those who will have freehold and leasehold, so that these people can get a good start in life. So we should make the most of the period we're in so as to kickstart some major plans for young people. And I'll give the floor to my friend now on innovation and some productive sectors that we need to help recover. Many thanks, Jean-Hervé. What the COVID crisis has revealed are deeper and deeply seated problems. Ever since the year 2000 in the noughties, France has offshored too much and relocated too much compared to Germany. And we've lost the control over our value chains, including in strategic sectors such as health, but in many other fields, many other sectors. So if we want to reconquer power and control over our value chains, we can do that through innovation. So we need to invest in research and innovation. And in particular, we propose the creation of European agencies on the model of DARPA. DARPA are the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. That was initially in defense, but that then was replicated in health and in many other sectors. similar to DARPA, these agencies could cover defense, digital and health, so as to give a stimulus to those European industries. And we think we need a Buy European Act on the model of the American Buy American Act, so as to give a boost to a number of strategic sectors, renewable energies, health, industry. We want to give a boost to Europe through better control over our value chains and through innovation. Yes, we're only at the beginning of this crisis, so the economic policy we need is an economic policy that prevents more economic deterioration. And to that end, we need to avoid some pitfalls. We need companies that are viable. We need to make it so that they do not become zombies or those ghost companies that only feed off grants and subsidies. One major problem currently is that we've made it possible for our companies to survive through debt. And we know that a high proportion of companies that are highly indebted will or might disappear or might stop investing because of their level of debt. So we suggest, I'm not going to go into the details of the financial technique, but we suggest operations to so that we go as closely as possible to the forgiving of the debt of many companies. So through thinking of the state-guaranteed loans and make sure that there's a state guarantee so that we keep interest rates low. That's in the medium term. Second problem from which two measures are derived. This crisis will lead to something that is very hard to handle, which is a distortion of structure between the different sectors in our French economy. Many sectors will be in difficulty, and many sectors will create jobs. But of course, the qualifications of the former are not the qualifications of the latter. So if you are if you work at Renault, it won't be necessarily easy to move to the digital economy straight away. And we're not talking exactly the same types of jobs when we look at the jobs that might disappear and the jobs that will be created. So we have to develop significantly and considerably training and the possibility for training. And whilst workers and employees develop their, get more training, we have to maintain their level of income. And we also have to make sure that for those who need to be transferred and to move to a different part of the country, or we need to make sure that these people can find housing. And another lesson that we can learn from the crisis, we thought we had a robust social protection system. Well, actually, there's lots of loopholes, a lot of this safety net, we find, is not as robust and as we thought. So we suggest that this safety net be extended. One way to do that is something our president had committed to, is to actually regroup that the plethora of social measures, social benefits that are managed by different agencies under one single big social protection bedrock. So let's have a universal income and social benefits.
Well, Another axis would be to fight against territorial rupture or differences and to start a new step of decentralization. What the COVID crisis revealed is that there is excessive decentralization in France. We saw the disaster of the regional health agency. I know some professors at L'Hôpital Hospital asking for the authorization to do tests, and after 2 months they were told that their demand was being examined. So this is an example, it's symptomatic. So we clearly need to decentralize. Second, we need to decentralize with the idea, and this is what we don't do in the previous decentralized reforms. We must decentralize by putting in, when a competence is transferred from the central state to the region or to the metropole, while the central state will just pull out of it. You don't add a layer. The state is no longer in charge. So be it housing, urban planning, transport, whatever. So. Or it could be employment for region, education, health. Well, if we transfer this, well, it is a trial transfer, and the state no longer has anything to do with it. And regions should have competence on employment, so that they should have their own investment funds. So it would be a new way, more German, more Renan, to do decentralization. Now, let's move on to another domain, which is that of social dialogue. We have a new prime minister who says he's going to be the man of social dialogue. Well, we have to do another step to social dialogue, and the Renan and Scandinavian tropism is in the source of inspiration. We should go to a situation where, employees and intermediate bodies and organizations have more to say in the management of companies. And, well, a first step in that direction would be to make the trade union check companies pay, so that the union check would be financed partly or by the employer, and the employees would have the freedom to choose their union without having to belong to it. So France, unlike other country, suffers from the fact that everything is this. So we have to decentralize at the scale of the country, and you have to trust, and instead of trusting the region and the metropoles and so on and so forth. Well, likewise at the level of the company, we think the union check or voucher would be the way to the future. I think the success is there is the market, the state, and civil society and intermediate bodies or organisms. And in France, the third element is not important enough versus the others. And I think countries which give a balance, we balance market, state, civil society. Well, I've been given the painful topic of the purchasing power. Now, in the US, you do like Joe Biden, you say, no problem, we're going to double minimum wage, and it is an amazing logic in the US. In France, it's very specific among the OECD countries. It is the country with Italy where, in fact, there's been no anomaly in the sharing of resources. Salaries increased at the same rhythm as productivity for the last 30 years. It wasn't the case in other countries. Well, otherwise, but unfortunately, we could have just a massive increase of low salaries. But in France, this would be harmful, very harmful for unskilled jobs. Recent works confirm the high sensitivity of low-skilled jobs in the labor cost. So we cannot do what Joe Biden proposed. So what we do suggest is that, well, it is something which is sometimes criticized by some unions, but I think it's an interesting lead, is to generalize almost or in all companies beyond the low threshold, the participation and employees share holding principle. Most of the major groups have, participation mechanism. Only 10% of SMEs or very small companies, have the system. It creates a lot of inequalities between employees, and it is feasible, it's acceptable, it's purchasing power, which does not destroy competitiveness. It is technically feasible, and I think it's a good lead, and we have to resist the criticism to say that it is a substitute to salaries that the employers don't want to give. Well, trust me, employers will certainly give participation more than salaries in view of the situation. So let's be serious and quick. the scope of reflection concerns the functioning of the state. Where the debt increases, are we going to reimburse it, not reimburse it? We do believe that that's not the emergency, that's not the pressing point now. What comes out in the country is the very fact that, the state and operation is the state is your central state, local authorities, or the hospitals. Well, you know, they have great merits and they have failures, so we all know that. So we thought that of course, we don't want to touch the status of public function. That's not the point. You know, that's not the issue. But on the contrary, we need to modify the very logic of operation of the state. We draw our inspiration for a French reform, which was never applied for simple reasons. It was called. It had been voted unanimously. It's one of a very rare law. It was abandoned because we chopped off all public expenditures, so didn't work. It was anyway. So the idea is to say, okay, we will reverse the logic of operation of public expenditures, which are necessary and they're quite high, and they're important. We don't want to work with huge instruments. We'll just give the means after. Well, you set objectives. The means are adapted to the objectives, and then we assess the results. I mean, for institutions or for, I would say, those who run it, we assessed de facto what the hospitals did, public and private, in the last few months. So we are aware, sensitive to that. Other domains don't work so well. So we want to reverse the operational logic of the state by it's very similar to, well, it's very similar to the Swedish system, where the agency would take this into account. We don't want to copy and paste, but simply, okay, now what's important is that we do have a prime of use skill. Well, let's set an objective. The objective is reached, not. If it's not reached, two possible results: either not enough means, so we add means, or there was a wrong policy and we changed the policy, and possibly the person who didn't do the good policy is being trashed. So France and Europe, and especially Europe, should gain back their leadership in the digital world. I talked about the digital DARPA. I mean, that's one of the axes. Well, we have to redefine the framework of the digital market. We need to protect personal data at the European level with the implementation of the Cloud European Act to make sure that data will remain the property of the Europeans. And at the individual level, we need better regulations about the consentment to private data on websites to control the personal data from climate. Now the climate, still me, says he. So how can we think about climate change struggle? Well, let's do the opposite with what we did with the carbon tax, which led to the yellow vest. Well, just think that the fight against climate change will be done through innovation at every level, including individuals and their way of lives. The green innovation, the greening on innovation is the key word for the fight against climate change. This struggle to innovation will be done through several instruments. Of course, the price of carbon. It's always have a carbon price, which will evolve in time. We need subsidies to green innovation. We need the energy DARPA I was mentioning early on. We should not ignore the carbon tax at the border, which are pollution havens. Say, well, if Europe has environmental policies, then we can become the place where we'll get all the companies that pollute and we can export. No, tax carbon at the border will deal with that. And new elements now, companies, there is what we call the social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, and there's a new role of commercial banks and central banks to make companies responsible and to correct them, put them on the right track. The climate test, crash test, and there are several tools which force companies to green everything, and we need to mobilize all those instruments. And we don't need the narrow vision of the carbon tax, which will let us. Sorry, I'm tired. So we need. I'm sorry, we're getting a bit tired in the booth. I'm sorry about that. So anyway, so I hope the next Prime Minister will take into account what I've just said, says the gentleman. 16 or 15th proposal, I can't remember. So. In everything we've said, there is a need for long-term financing. So education, digital, climate, everything. Telcos, there is an endless list of health care. I mean, there are an endless list of long-term financing is that they are risky. I mean, let's look for, seeking a new vaccine is risky. Climate research is risky. Carbon capture, we don't know it's going to work. So we have to be able in Europe, and that's to have a mass of long-term funding that would take risk. Now, this is very complicated, and for two main reasons. First is that capitalism, modern capitalism, calls for high capital yield, and therefore efficiency it's like having short-term vision. So long-term horizon is not in the DNA of today's capitalism. Second thing is the demand for security of the people who save their money. They get older. Rich people have money. So we need to have long-term investment that will take risk if we want to do everything we said, with a constraint, which means that we have to give sufficient revenues to the state, and we have to preserve the savings and preserve the safety of savings. So not that many possibilities. First one is to act on the regulations of major institutional investors, insurance companies who finance economy, startups, innovation. And the second possibility is a public-private mix. We go to a world where there will be more association of private banks, public investors, and so on and so forth, have a mix of funding that will make it possible to do such long-term investment. One last word on this. The role of Europe, we talked about it, is major. Europe can do long-term risk financing, which we should do it, and low rates. It's a great opportunity because the lower the interest rate, the easier it is to finance the long term. So it is the time to take advantage. Jean-Hervé, let's go for it. Now, one last word. First, we sharp on time. Amazing. So we came out with the 16 measures which cover the topic. All this will be disseminated. We did a quick presentation, but we did it exactly 30 minutes, so we're good. We're good. One word to those who run, to the political leaders: discussion, debate. We, by chance, because we're the first link of a discussion that should grow in the country, we will not a policy, a dynamic policy or positive policy if we don't hear the viewpoints, varied viewpoints. We partly gathered. We have to stop with the technique of forced or get crashing passage. It doesn't work. That could be my personal opinion, but you're right. So everything that is being said in this studio is shared. Now, what's more shared, because this is the great time, the most sympathetic is to thank. I talk on behalf of my three colleagues and all the members of the Cercle. I will tell you. So usually, there is an amphitheater, everybody applauds, and it's not the case. But I've been told that there would be a photo of the team. Oh, they're good looking, they're beautiful. They're all very good looking. They're all beautiful. I cannot give all the names. I've been told it's not possible. You see them. It's an amazing team, and I really want to thank them one after the other. It's not going to take 15 minutes, but trust me, I mean, the applause that cannot take place physically are there from the bottom of our hearts, of all those who were involved in these operations. So I want to thank all members of the Cercle. My two colleagues here, you all thank them. They're great. But I do it on behalf of the 2 million viewers we have, or at least. Then, second topic, I would like to thank Radio France with kindness, efficiency. Honestly, it was amazing what happened. We had discussions between China, US. It was amazing. All this took place with no problem. I want to thank the 95 partners. We had to believe in this, 3 months ago, that the Cercle des Économistes, of course, with amazing people, all of us, the 34 members are exceptional, but launch a product like that was amazing, and they really worked with us. And there is this Aix-Marseille University, which hosted the control rooms, everything they've done from the Maison de la Radio. So when we, and then that's for the, and thank you. Now I go to the people who are still, this will not have been possible. This mad operation would have been possible and was a success if we had known that two amazing women in this organization. They're both known, but one more than the other because she's been seen for a long time. Marie Castin, who is, well, we have an institution. She's the president of the Cercle des Économistes, but well, anyway, she's there anyway. And Anne Vernois, you can see her. She's, well, anyway, it's difficult, but anyway, she's the one who's smiling and she's got glasses on. Okay, so though they're great. There's been a team of the teams that I've worked for. 95 partners just came by, fell off from the sky. So a great team of women. Parity is unbalanced in the other direction. So Hélène Verizer and Philippine Guérard, but on behalf of the 95 partners, thank you. Then program. We never had a program like that, never. And it was amazing, not just through the diversity, the fact that we had people from 30 countries. Anyway, for those who followed, for those who will see it again in the week, well, thousands of people who got connected. Well, it was a team, their names. I can't designate them. So Thibault Montméja, Zoé Martini, Lise Frisch, Clément Lebourg, and Elie Baladou, the team of 5 great people. I think all those who participated thought they were 50 because they were able to convince everybody to come, and they did it. Communication was done. The communication was very good, efficient.
Without them, we wouldn't have been able to have so many people watch us. And Gilles Meffre, Alban Schneider, they made it possible for us to be connected to all those different media. You know that it was very important for us to include young people. The FAGE, which is the FAGE and the UNEF, that are both federations of students' unions. And we had our 1828 competition with all these young people. We have 4 winners, Laurent Berigny, and of course, there's always a need for financing to make such an event possible. And I was telling our friends, so many thanks to Société Générale, Deleuze, and so they were very efficient in making it possible to financing. And the final statement was prepared. Mathieu Negues, Aline Moret, Alexis Alléger, Thomas Seron, and Léa Collini. They worked really hard because thanks to them, we worked not on 32 versions, same as previous years, but 20. Sybille Welt and Xavier Leminot at Radio France bore with us, and we must have been in their way all the time. And France Info, Vincent Chiré, France Inter, Dominique Seux, Laurence Bloch, who's a great help as well, France Culture, Sandra Krener, and France Musique, Marc Voicher, who was the link with the festival, because there's a link with the Aix Festival, and there are teams at Radio France because in the night time there were lots of tests going on I'd like to thank them, Romain Beignon, Sandrine Bréchot, Marie Bricou, Alain Fauché. Alain Fauché, where we were losing hope, he found the words to keep us going. And last but not least, Guillaume Tableau and his teams. And finally, this whole event, this whole operation was organized by a production team. Because, you know, the reason why we're here, and there are people in Marseille who have supported us, and the reason why it worked so well at Radio France, it's because there's a team that has organized everything. I've kept them last because I'm not saying they're the best, because everybody was really great. But I want to thank them because actually, Laure Koum, she kept a smile on her face. Alexandra Lauteneur, Nicole Bordet, she was our sort of liaison officer with Aix, Catherine Filon-Roxut, and Alain Viviano. Alain Viviano, special thanks to Alain. So, same as Laure Koum, that is why I kept them last. The fact that that man welcomed us in Aix. He organized everything in Aix. You know, usually it's all in all the lecture halls and all the different meeting rooms. And he's given us relentless support. You know, at times we were losing courage or and he was there to support us. And I can see the head of Radio France. Special thanks to Radio France. Special thanks to Laure Koum. She saved me several times when I was close to despair. And many thanks to my two friends from the Cercle. And I'll thank myself as well. See you next year. And maybe at Radio France as well, if we're still on lockdown. But, really, many thanks to all.